Who's next to get fired on Below Deck Down Under? We've narrowed it down to 3 yachties. We've already seen Luke and Laura get fired, so we know they're off the boat. There's still likely one more crew member who's walking the plank this season, and I've narrowed it down to 3, and I want to get your perspective too, but I'm going to give you the points as to why I think these 3 are on the chopping block this season. Is it Culver, Adam, or Margot? Here's what I'm thinking. Let's start with Culver. The self-proclaimed CEO, Chief Entertainment Officer, is a fan favorite, not just to viewers of the show, but for the guests. I mean, he really does elevate the guest experience on this show. He's so fun, so entertaining, and when he is at 100%, he is so much fun to be around. Now, on the flip side of that, when his battery is low, he makes all kinds of mistakes, and we start to see that so far. You know, in the corporate world, we would call him a personality hire. Although he's universally adored, he definitely has had some issues this season, not just with Chef Serena. We can talk about that another time. But he also has just dealt with an issue where he kind of slacks off at some points. And you start to see this with some pretty big mistakes that he makes, starting with dropping the tender. And, you know, as far as we're actually getting the tender up and onto the boat, Captain Lee on Couch Talk the other day kind of played back through this, and it's really a simple process. The wind is something you have to factor into it. And, you know, Culver not only, you know, put his crew at risk, he also put Captain Jason at risk. Captain Jason tripped, falling backwards, trying to steady the tender as it was coming on. And honestly, I think from pure embarrassment, a more egotistical and proud captain would have fired him just for making him trip. So I think, you know, Culver gets lucky a couple different times in Below Deck Down Under with the fact that Captain Jason is so patient and understanding and encouraging when he could just be like, no, you're liability, goodbye. The issue in that fans keep replaying and replaying is that Culver, throughout the entire process of the tender swinging in the wind and hitting the railing and making Jason trip, is Culver seems unfazed, unbothered. I mean, I aspire to the level of unbothered Culver was when that tender hit the railing. Now, that issue was about a $700 mistake, and there was a quick repair. But I really do think Jason kind of let him off easy. He gave him the disco helmet when he could have just given him a ticket home for messing up the boat. He could have done a lot more damage. He could have done damage to the tender. He could have hurt a crew member the way that the boat was swinging. So really, he kind of got off lucky on that one. And who knows how many more chances Culver's going to get. I do know that Jason is already established with Joelle, the new first officer, is that he will not be in charge of any more of those things with the tender. He's not being given any important responsibilities from here on out, just to save the boat, save the crew. I do think that, you know, Culver's last season, in season 1, we saw him struggle with Jamie, the bosun they had on that season, and in his defense, Jamie was toxic and he discouraged Culver, and he put a lot of bugs in Culver's ear to make him insecure. So I definitely think when Culver slacked off last season, it was because he was feeling dejected and like, what's the point? Captain hates me. When the captain didn't hate him, and the captain was being more than patient enough with him. It was just Jamie that was the problem. Now, ironically, Jamie is also a problem this season, just a different Jamie. Stu that's getting in the way of his relationship with Chef Serena on the boat, and that's a whole nother story. I don't think that would impact him getting fired or anything like that, but, you know, when you're getting along and you're bonded and the crew has your back and you have theirs, I think you see that and you see them go to his defense. I'm worried that if he's burning bridges on this boat and he's getting so focused on the girl that he stops paying attention to his roles, responsibilities, and taking care of the rest of the crew, we might see some issues. Next on the chopping block, Adam. As of episode 10 in Below Deck Down Under season 2, we see Adam start to come out of his shell. We see a really sweet, endearing moment between Adam and Joao, and it looks like he's really starting to bond, show a little bit more of his personality, and kind of adapt to the family culture on the boat, which is really cool to see. And I think we start thinking, okay, we're starting to see a better side of him. And then, man, he just starts making mistake after mistake. Starting out in the season, let's not forget that he forgot to pull off the swim ladder. So, you know, they didn't say how much that cost to replace that and fix that, but that was just a kind of a like silly, dumb mistake that he made. And I think, honestly, Luke probably took the brunt of that. And yeah, it was just a silly mistake. He was told to take it off, so that's on him. He did damage the side of the boat on this last docking. I think this is going to come into a crucial play right here as we go into the next episodes, because this docking is at least $1,000 mistake. And on Couch Talk this week, Captain Lee, this was super helpful because I'm not a yachtie. I don't understand this. But the reason they expect so much out of Adam, he is a third mate unlimited. He is second place to being a captain unlimited, which means Adam is certified and qualified to drive anything that floats, any type of boat in the whole world, pretty much. He's second to number one of all captain qualifications. So even though he's very green experience-wise, he does know the books. And we saw that a lot at the beginning of the season where he was trying to show off his knowledge. He does know what to do. What the problem is that his muscle memory and his stress management, I think he gets flustered and then he forgets what to do. Now, Captain Lee also called out a key point, which is that Culver was standing right across on the dock, just watching him about 2 feet away as he didn't get the fender in the way to hit the pylon. And at first, when I was watching the show, I looked at it as like, oh, well, maybe there's a protocol somewhere where, like, Culver's not supposed to, like, touch anything or anything. And actually, Cait Chastain's the one who said, I always had a hand fender. Why doesn't he do anything? All he had to do was reach 2 feet over and move the fender. Yet he stood there and looked, again, unbothered, while Adam was freaking out trying to move everything by himself. And so, although I think this ultimately is going to come down to Adam as his mistake, it's worth looking back on from the camera lens and seeing that Culver's just standing there watching him make the mistake. I think when they watch this back in reunions or anything like that after the season, they may feel bad for giving Adam a hard time on this one. But again, it comes down to what Joao and Captain Jason have seen and what they're hearing. They only know what they know. They only see what they see. They're not looking back at the cameras to see what happened at the docking. So I think they're just going to chalk this up to $1,000 mistake. And we'll see if this comes back to haunt Adam. What I do think is going to be kind of that 3 strikes you're out potentially for Adam is that while they are moving with new charter guests on, Adam accidentally drops the anchor. And I think my husband and I stopped and looked at each other and said, wait, why was he even touching the anchor? What was happening? So that's kind of, as a viewer, I don't really know. Maybe you can let me know in the comments. I can ask some of my yachty friends, why would he have been messing with the anchor anyways while the boat was moving? But yeah, that could be a really pricey and really dangerous, risky mistake. He could not only hurt himself, but he could do some damage to the boat enough to make things imbalanced and things like that. So we'll see how they handle that after this episode, but If this looks as bad as they're playing it up to be, this could be 3 strikes, you're out. And last but not least, it might be our sweet dear Margot. And I think it's worth calling out that there are a couple reasons why I think Margot is actually the person that's going to get let go before the end of the season. And here's why. So although she's endured a lot this season, there's one clear rule that all the below deck seasons and captains and yachties, charters, everything have in common, which is that you don't drink on charter. Now on the show, this is a little dicey. We do know that there have been instances, in the past where, Cait Chastain was accused of drinking on charter, and there are definitely people who had drank on charter. That's not the question. I'm pretty sure Travis and Jack in Below Deck Med just drank the whole charter start to finish. But there is a clear rule, and, captains do pay attention to someone having alcohol in their breath. And we see this in the season trailer. We know that Margot is going to have some sort of issue where Aisha as well stops and says, hey, I smell alcohol in your breath. That's a big deal. And frankly, it's worth noting that if you had a little sip or something like that, that wasn't really an issue, it would be easy to cover up. I think when someone has alcohol in their breath, that means that they've been drinking. And for that, this may come back as a fireable offense. And that's what we kind of see Jason hint to in the season trailer. We know he's going to look someone dead in the eye and say this is a fireable offense. And I think that's going to come down to Margot, because it does show that he notices that she had been drinking during the charter. And she is in a customer-facing service job, so she's so much closer to the guests on the yacht. And there may be some safety implications, too, with having a crew member under the influence. So another reason to think this may be a bigger deal in the next few episodes is that after the Luke situation, which we know was traumatic enough for Margot, it's hard to recover from what she seemingly bounced back from. But there's a lot of ongoing trauma that happens as you realize what unfolded, and especially when they're on a yacht and they're going back and forth, they may not have enough time to process their feelings, and they may come back later in the season. So I honestly think that's what it is. But Margot ultimately confirmed our suspicions that she might get fired, because she posted during the Luke situation, when those episodes aired, that her problem with alcohol was going to be an issue, and that she was struggling during this season. And she asked fans and viewers just to hang in there with her during the rest of the season. And yeah, I feel awful for her. I do think, she's so beloved by the crew. So I do think if she is let go, the crew is going to be super upset, because I feel like they've really rallied behind her. But at the same time, sometimes you have to draw the line at, hey, let's get you off the boat. Let's get you some help. You're not in a good place. This has happened before with Gabriella and stuff like that, where sometimes it's just someone is not in the right emotional state to be on this boat, on this charter, in high pressure situations. And so we'll see. It could be, knowing Captain Jason, he gives so much grace and so much patience and so many second chances that, it could be that he presents someone with, hey, this is a fireable offense, but I'm going to give you one last shot. We don't get to see how it plays out quite yet. And I don't have any rumors about anyone else coming on board, but that doesn't mean I won't be surprised. I ultimately think that it's going to be Margot that gets let go. But we'll just have to wait and see. Let me know who you think it is and which person you think deserves to be fired, if anyone. Let me know in the comments. Thanks.